Hello my fellow working class heroes, good day. I am Carlo and this is Carlo Excels. These are the objectives of this episode. First, we're gonna find out the importance of knowing the types of values in Excel. Next, we're gonna find out how to change a cell's type of value. And then we're gonna find out the types of values most commonly used by teachers. First of all, I hope you've watched the previous lesson. In the previous lesson, we already stated that there are two kinds of data that you can enter in a cell in Microsoft Excel. There is the text data and there's the value data. In this lesson, we're gonna deal with the value data. Very simply put, why is it important to know the types of values in Excel? First of all, the type of value used in each cell affects how the data is displayed by Microsoft Excel. It also affects how the data will be printed if in case you print the data or you print the sheet later on. Also, the type of value used will affect how the data will be handled and calculated by Microsoft Excel. So let's enter some sample value data. Let's say, for example, let's put it here in the cell 1234.5. So how do you change a type of value? The first way to change a type of value used in cell A1, alright, is to go to the Home tab and then look at the ribbon. You'll see there the number part of the ribbon of the Home tab. You'll see there the number part. You can change it from here. So by default, it's in a general number format. So you can click on the small arrow to the right of that, and then you can select here the number format or the value format or the value type that you want. So for example, if you want it general, you want it number format, you want it currency format, you want it in an accounting format, we're gonna talk about all of those number formats or those value types one by one. Another way you can do so is by selecting the cell or maybe even selecting a range like this and then right-clicking, alright? Once you right-click, you go to Format Cells over here, and once you left-click on that, it will, this will pop out. So you have here the general category of values. So you have general, number, currency, accounting, date, time, percentage, etc. We're gonna talk about those one by one. So let's first talk about the general value. So reading from the screen right now, the default number format that Excel applies when you type a number. That's the general values. For the most part, numbers that are formatted with the general format are displayed just the way you type them. However, if the cell is not wide enough to show the entire number, the general format rounds the numbers with decimals. The general number format also uses scientific or exponential notation for large numbers with 12 or more digits. When you start Microsoft Excel and you create a new workbook and you have a new sheet, all of those cells are in the general number format. So that is the default format, alright? So when you enter data in any of those cells, it's just in the general format. You can even enter text. For example, let's put here grades, right? So that's considered as text. Any value that you put in it, like for example, 84, that's a grade. Any value you put in it will be assessed by Microsoft Excel, and then Microsoft Excel will try to automatically assume the best number format that is for that cell depending on the format or depending on the number or the value that you put in the cell. Take for example, I enter another grade over here, 91, 86. So in that case, Microsoft Excel simply says, oh, these are numbers, so let's just display them as numbers, no problem. Say for example, I create a new column here, like date, and then I enter a date. Let's say for example, January 1, 2020. Oh, sorry. Let's say, for example, January 1, 2020. Alright? If I press enter on that, you will notice that Microsoft Excel already detects that you entered a date and therefore converts what you type into the date value format. In most cases, the general number format is fine when it's used for most purposes such as formulas, transition. By the way, transition and helper cells is a future lesson. Please subscribe to the channel so that you will see what I mean when I say transition and helper cells in Microsoft Excel. Next, let's talk about the number values, alright? Reading from the screen, used for the general display of numbers. You can specify the number of decimal places that you want to use, whether you want to use 1000 separator, and how you want to display negative numbers. So let's put here a number. So let me extend the cell like so, and then let's put a number. Let's say 12345.6789. Alright? So you have a number that is more than 10,000, and then you have 4 decimal places. So there are a number of things that you can do now that Microsoft Excel considers this as a number value. So you can right click on that and then click on Format Cells. So to solidify its status as a number as a number value, click on number, and then you will see here that Microsoft Excel now gives you a number of additional options. For example, if you want this to stay like this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, without a comma to separate the thousands, you can just leave it like that. Or you can click on this box over here to use a thousand separator. You can also display, or you can also choose rather, the number of decimal places that you wish to display. So for example, if I only want one decimal place like so, you will notice that Microsoft Excel has already rounded the value off. Alright, so if I'm gonna use 2 decimal places, that is what's going to look like. If I use 3 decimal places, that becomes like that, and then 4 decimal places becomes like so. If I use 5 decimal places, look what happens, right? What happens is Microsoft Excel now adds an additional 0, even though essentially that 0 is not supposed to have a value. Please take note that Microsoft Excel does not really change the value of the cell, but rather changes the way that the cell is displayed. First of all, based on the cell that it's actually contained in. So for example, you have here the number 12345.6789. If I change this to from a number format with 4 decimal places to a general format like so naka-general format na siya. Now, if I move the column to the left until there is no more space to write the whole number, you will notice that Microsoft Excel has already rounded off the value to the nearest thousandths. So that is so that the number will fit in the column. If I move it further, you will notice that Microsoft Excel will keep rounding the number off so that it will fit in the column until such time that Microsoft Excel changes the number into something like this. This doesn't mean an error. It simply means that there is a number that's supposed to be here, but Microsoft Excel can't display it because it doesn't fit in the column. Please take note that for number values, or any of the values for that matter, if you change the viewing of the decimal places, please take note that it only changes the way Microsoft Excel shows the numbers, but it doesn't actually change the value of that particular cell. Take for example, if I'm gonna put here on this cell the grade 74.49, alright, 74.49. So the value of the cell, or in other words, let's just say this is a grade of a student. The grade of the student is 74.49, alright? If I, reduce the size of the cell, you will see there it becomes 74.5. As I mentioned a while ago, that's because, Microsoft Excel adjusts the number because it doesn't fit in the cell anymore. So you might be mistaken in thinking that, 74.5, so that will round up to 75, so therefore that's a passing grade. Please note that even though it shows there 74.5, the value of the cell is still written in the formula bar. It is still 74.49. What that means is, if you use this cell for calculation later on, and yes, we will learn calculation in a future lesson. When you use this cell for calculation, Microsoft Excel is going to use the original value of the cell, which is 74.49, not 74.5. Please note that in a future lesson, I am going to teach the proper procedure in rounding off cells, whether it be rounding up cells, rounding down cells. There is a proper procedure for that. In other words, there is a proper way for this cell to be properly converted into its rounded value. 74.49, if you round it off to the 10th decimal place, it will become 74.5. You round it off to the nearest one, it will become 74, right? There's a proper way to round that off in a way that what's going to be used as far as calculation is concerned later will be 74.5 if you choose to round it off to the 10th decimal place, or 74 if you choose to round it off to the ones place. Changing the decimal view here is not the proper procedure in rounding off. There is a proper procedure in rounding off, which we will learn in a later lesson. Next, let's talk about currency values and accounting values. It's actually useful to discuss them side by side so that you can compare how both of them work. Currency values, used for general monetary values and displays a default currency symbol with numbers. You can specify the number of decimal places that you want to use, whether you want to use a thousand separator, and how you want to display negative numbers. Accounting values, also used for monetary values, but it aligns the currency symbols and decimal points of numbers in a column. So here are 2 columns of identical values. Let's format this using the currency value format, And let's format this using the accounting value format. And then let's compare and contrast what they will look like. So same procedure as last time. Let's highlight these cells. Then let's right click and then click format cells. Then let's pick currency. Now when you get to this screen, you will notice, of course, you can set the number of decimal places that you're going to use. You want to use 2 or 3 or more decimal places. Then you can also pick the symbol. So for us in the Philippines, we need the peso sign. The peso sign is actually somewhere here. We just have to look for it. Scroll down, lower, lower, lower. Oops. You're looking for the peso symbol. There it is. You can actually either use the English for Philippines or the Filipino one. Let's use for now the English Philippines, like so. So that is the peso sign for us. So you can also control the way that Microsoft Excel treats negative numbers. You can either display it in the negative standard sense, or if you want the negative numbers displayed in red, let's first look at it the way this way. So you will see here, negative is treated this way, or you can set it to red, like so. Or just like in accounting, you can set it, you can enclose negative numbers in parentheses. So you can format it like that, or if you want, you can go overkill and have both a parenthesis and colored in red, like so. Now let's try the accounting value format. So let's highlight these cells and then let's click on right click and then click on format cells, and then let's select accounting. Please note that in accounting, the accounting value format, there is not much options because accounting has a standard way of displaying cells. All right, so you can only set decimal places and then you have the symbols. Again, let's find the peso sign somewhere here. There you are. Click OK. So that is the standard way that accounting displays values and of course displays negative numbers. So you will notice that in the accounting value format, the decimal places are properly lined up. All of the digits are properly lined up. The peso sign is on the leftmost part of the cell. In fact, if I extend this cell way over here, you will notice that the peso sign is on the leftmost part of the cell, right? And that's how the accounting value format displays values compared to the currency value format. Next, date values. Displays date and time serial numbers as date values according to the type and locale or location that you specify. So we're back here in my Excel screen and all of the cells currently are using the general value format. So how do you enter a date and how are you sure that Microsoft Excel actually considers this as a date? If you remember the previous lesson, and yes, I hope you watched it, once you enter any value in a cell, if you remember, right? If you enter text, Microsoft Excel actually aligns it to the left. If you successfully enter a value, you will know because Microsoft Excel automatically aligns it to the right. So that is one way for you to know that you successfully entered a date and Microsoft Excel has considered it as a date value. Alright, what we're gonna do is let's increase the width of this column so that we can see where Microsoft Excel aligns what I'm gonna type. So let's put here first, January 1, 2021, right? You will notice that Microsoft Excel aligns what I type to the left. That is one way that you will know that Microsoft Excel does not recognize this as date value. It recognizes this as simple text. Let's try again. This time, let's type this. January 1 with a comma 2021. Enter. Then you will notice that Microsoft Excel still does not recognize this as a date value. It still recognizes this as text. Why? Because there is a typo. This is not how you're supposed to spell January. Alright? So let's do it properly this time. January 1, comma 2021. And when I press enter, you will notice that Microsoft Excel has changed the format of the cell and then has aligned it to the right. That is one way you will know that you have successfully entered a proper date value. Now, there are three standard ways that you can enter a date value. So, one of them would be what I just showed. You have the complete name of the date, or rather the month, and then the day, and then the year, like so. Or you can have it this way. You can have it month first, the month in number form slash the day in number form slash the year. So again, month, day, year. So let's try this. Let's try January 13, 2021. Alright? And you will notice that it is aligned to the right, meaning Microsoft Excel successfully recognizes this as a date value. Let's try reversing. What if you enter the day first and then the month second? Like so, 13/1/2021. Diba in some countries, this is recognized as the way they write their dates. If you press enter, you will see Microsoft Excel does not recognize this date and is aligning it to the left. So that is one way for you to know you enter the date wrong. It's supposed to be month and then day and then year. Now you can also use dashes. So for example, 1/13. So that's January 13, 2021. And you will notice that Microsoft Excel aligns it to the right and then changes the way it's written. That's a successful writing the date. If you want to do it the wrong way again, just for proof of concept, so 13th of January 2021, and you will notice aligned to the left, meaning it is text, it is not recognized as a date. So let's remove all of these wrong entries, and then let's move this up. And then let's change the way that Microsoft Excel displays these dates. So if you right click on a date, on the cell like so, format cells, of course, please pick a date like so. And then you can actually change the way Microsoft Excel displays this date. So you have the following options. So for example, you can have here the standard month / day / the year, or you may want only the month and the day, or you want the day, you want the year pero 2 digits lang, or you may have the complete date including the day of the week. There are a lot of options here, so you can take your pick. For example, for this one, I'm going to use day, month, year, like so. For this, I am going to use the complete date, including the day of the week, like so. Or in this case, let's try this, like so. So you have a lot of options as to how you can display the date. Please note that because this is a value, alright, even though they're displayed differently, these have the exact for as long as they're consistent with each other. For example, I'm gonna change this now to January 13, 2021. Alright? No matter how Microsoft Excel displays the date, for as long as they're the exact same date, they have the exact same value as a date. Now, please listen carefully. I want you to know this. Remember in the previous lesson, I mentioned that values can be used for calculation. Remember that dates are considered by Microsoft Excel as values. So dates have values. And because they have values, they can be manipulated and they can be calculated. So therefore, dates can be added. You can subtract dates from each other. In fact, you can take the date today, subtract the birth date of the student to get the student's age. That can be done automatically in Microsoft Excel. In fact, you can take a date value and you can extract just the month. You can extract just the day. You can extract just the year. You can even extract the day of the week from that particular date. So that lesson, the basics on the manipulation of dates, is actually in a future lesson on this channel. So once again, please subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss that lesson when it finally comes. Next, let's talk about time values. Time values displays date and time serial numbers as time values according to the type and locale or location that you specify. So we're back here at my sheet, and then I've changed all of the cells back to the general format. So let's try to enter a date value now. So entering a date value, just like with time value, the best way you will know that you've successfully entered a date value is if it aligns to the right, right? So once again, let's increase the width of that cell so that we see where it aligns, right? So let's try this. Let's put here 1 o'clock like so. Alright, so this has now been successfully recognized by Microsoft Excel as a time value. So you want to click on it, and then you want to look at the formula bar to see exactly how Microsoft Excel reads this particular cell. And you'll see here 1 o'clock a.m. Alright, now what if you don't want this to be 1 o'clock a.m. You want this to be actually 1 o'clock p.m. So you have to specify that. So you can put here, for example, 1 p.m. oh, 1 p.m., but you will notice that Microsoft Excel aligns it to the left, meaning Microsoft Excel does not recognize this as a proper time. So let's try again, 1 space p.m. So if you put here 1 p.m. like so, you will now notice that it aligns to the right. It aligns to the right, and then this has now been properly recognized by Microsoft Excel as 1 o'clock p.m. You can also do it this way. You can also do it military time, like so. That is also 13 o'clock. 13 o'clock. It displays as 13 o'clock, but you will notice that it is recognized by Microsoft Excel as 1 o'clock p.m. Now, if you want to put in the minutes, so for example, let's say 1:30 p.m. So let's try military time, 13:30, like so. So it displays at 13:30, but you can look at the formula bar, and this is recognized by Microsoft Excel as 1:30 p.m. All right. So let's try another one. Let's try, for example, 1:30 p.m. and 30 seconds. So this is how you do it. So let's say, for example, 1:30 and 30 seconds. Like so. And then let's specify PM. Press enter. So this is still recognized by Microsoft Excel as a proper time. So this is 1:30 p.m. and 30 seconds. Now, just like date values, you can actually specify to Microsoft Excel exactly how you want the time to be displayed. So let's remove this because this is an improper time. Now, you highlight these and you right click, and then you click on format cells. So you select time, and here you can actually select the right way, or rather the way that you want it displayed. For example, you want all of these to be military time, like so, for example, or you want this to be standard 12-hour clock format with AM and PM. So you can choose the following options. Let's say, for example, I want to choose this, and you will notice that Microsoft Excel displays it as so. Now, my dear viewers, please note that time, just like dates, is considered as Microsoft Excel as value data. And because it is value data, yes, it can be calculated. You can add time together, you can subtract time from each other, you can use it for calculations. So to my fellow teachers, in most cases, we really don't need calculating time anyway, because we only really need time values when it comes to the creation of class schedules and things like that. So I do not honestly feel the need to teach time. It's not on my list of lessons that I want to tackle for this channel. But if you want me to discuss time and the calculation of time in this channel, please state it in the comment section, and then I'll think about scheduling it in a future lesson. Thank you. Fraction values displays a number as a fraction according to the type of fraction that you specify. I'm back at my Microsoft Excel screen, and all of these cells have been put back to the general format. Now, I want to say that fractions are very, very tricky. I'm gonna show you why, alright? So, let's say, for example, I want the very common fraction. Let's say, for example, 12 over 24, alright? If I enter 12 over 24 and I wanted it to become a fraction, you will notice that Microsoft Excel actually recognizes it as a date. Microsoft Excel thought that I meant December 24. Alright, let's try another one. Let's try 1/2. Very common, the very basic 1/2. And you will notice Microsoft Excel looked at it as January 2. Alright, let's try another one. Let's say this is a legitimate fraction. Alright, 1 over 234. And Microsoft Excel in this case does not even recognize it as a fraction. Microsoft Excel simply thought that I just typed 1 over 234 and considered it as text. In most cases, if you want to type a fraction, there are two ways, safe ways of doing so. First of all, you want to specify first to Microsoft Excel that you mean to type a fraction. So how do you do that? So if I want to type a fraction at cell A1, all right, I want to right click on it first and then format cells. I want to select in advance that I want to type a fraction. Alright, so it can be up to 1 digit or 2 digits or 3 digits. Let's say, for example, I want it up to 3 digits. Alright, so like so. I'm gonna set it even though it is still blank. So it is now set as a fraction. So if I type in, for example, 1 over 4, Microsoft Excel in this case already recognizes it as a fraction. How do I know that it is properly recognized as a fraction? Because when I click on the cell, you will see there on the formula bar the decimal equivalent of 1/4, which is 0.25. You can also type mixed fractions actually. So for example, I want to set this to a fraction like so, and then let's say, for example, I want it up to 3 digits. let's say for example, 232 and 1/5. Alright? I'm gonna extend that. So 232 and 1/5. And I know that this is a proper fraction now because it is now considered by Microsoft Excel to have a value of 232.2, which is the decimal equivalent of 232 and 1/5. Of course, I can change the way Microsoft Excel displays this kasi this is in 3 digits. So for example, I want it up to 1 digit, like so. Or I want it up to 2 digits, like so. Or for example, I want it in halves, like so. Or for example, I want it in quarters, like so. Alright? So you can change the way Microsoft Excel summarizes the fractions. My fellow teachers, as far as I know, we only really need fractions in one particular place, alright? And that is in attendance. When we fill up our school form 2 or when we have our attendance records in our SF9, or in other words, that's the report card, alright? That is where we really need fractions, particularly in the attendance part. If you remember, diba, in attendance, we have half absences. So 23 and 1/2, 24 and 1/2. So that's really only the practical time that we use fractions. But in most cases, I actually recommend just decimals. Unless, of course, you are a math teacher and you are currently discussing decimals, then I think, yeah, there. Scientific notation values displays a number in exponential notation, replacing part of the number with e plus n, where e, which stands for exponent, multiplies the preceding number by 10 to the nth power. You can specify the number of decimal places that you want to use. So once again, I'm back at my blank sheet and all of these cells have been set to the general notation. So scientific notation values are only actually used when you have the general format and you enter a value that has 12 digits or more. Alright, so I'm gonna try entering a number in the trillions. Alright, so let's increase the width. So let's try this. We want to set it to trillion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 digits. How many digits are in a trillion? Alright, I got it now. There are 13 digits in a trillion. So let's try this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. That's 10 digits. 13 digits in a trillion. So let's put in commas just so Microsoft, so that we're guided, right? And press enter. So this is these are digits in a trillion, alright? And you will notice, of course, that Microsoft Excel has automatically set this to a number because it recognizes the commas, and by putting in the commas, Microsoft Excel knows that we intend this to be a number. But what if we don't put the commas? So let's try this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3. And you will notice that Microsoft Excel has now changed the number into scientific notation. So what this number means is 1.23 exponent plus 12. What this means is 1.23 times 10 to the 12th power. Alright? So just because you see the letter E, it doesn't mean error. Alright? It's just that Microsoft Excel, to fit the elements on the column, it has now changed this into scientific notation. So why am I discussing this? It's not like it's common for us teachers to use scientific notations. I am discussing this because it's a common occurrence for us teachers when we are trying to enter learner reference numbers. So in the Philippines, according to the Department of Education, the learner reference number is a 12-digit unique identifier number that is assigned to each and every student, and that number is going to stay with the student from the start of his schooling all the way to the end of his schooling. Hopefully they get to the end of their schooling. So that 12-digit number, if you try to enter it in Excel automatically, unfortunately, changes it to scientific notation. So for example, if I have a 12-digit number, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1. 0, 1, 2. So you have here a sample fictional, of course, learner reference number, 12 digits. If I press enter, you will notice, of course, it has changed into scientific notation. That's not what we want. We want the full learner reference number to be displayed. So, as I've taught you before, to turn it from scientific notation to the number format, just right-click, pick format cells, and then pick number, so that the full learner reference number can be displayed. And of course, you may want to remove decimals because, of course, the learner reference number does not have any decimals. And then, of course, so that, you can display the full reference number, increase the column width, like so. And then, of course, you have the full learner reference number. Text treats the content of a cell as text and displays the content exactly as you type it, even when you type numbers. And last but not the least is, of course, text. Now, text is not value. Diba? We already talked about it in a previous lesson that you have the two kinds of data. You have text and value. So therefore, text are not values, but you can set it as a format for a cell. So say, for example, just like what I discussed in a previous video, if you want to enter specifically the number 001 and you want it to be displayed as so, you cannot do so because Microsoft Excel will simply summarize the number by removing the unnecessary digits. So you cannot enter 001 like so. If you remember our previous lesson, you may watch that video, please. You can start with an apostrophe like so, 001, so that Microsoft Excel recognizes this as text data and you will see that it is aligned to the left. Alright. Now, another way to do this is to simply right-click on the cell and then pick Format Cells and then select Text. Alright. It says there, text format cells are treated as text even when a number is in the cell. The cell is displayed exactly as entered. So therefore, click OK, and therefore, because this is now text, you can simply enter 001 and it is recognized as text. So that's it for this lesson on the types of values. The next lessons include sorting and filtering of data, and then after that, we have basic calculations. So please subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss those lessons when they come. Once again, I am Carlo, and this is Carlo Excels. Thank you very much for watching.